They laughed at his damaged armor, until he removed it, silencing the room before the alien. The great hall of the Interstellar Council buzzed with tension and curiosity. Delegates from dozens of alien civilizations filled the tiered seats, their strange forms and colorful attire reflecting the diversity of the galaxy. At the center, humans made their first formal appearance as representatives of Earth. Among them stood Commander Kale, tall, calm, and bearing armor that had seen countless missions. The metal was scratched, dented, and scorched in places. It was a testimony to survival rather than elegance, but in the gleaming halls filled with polished suits and flawless technology, it looked broken. As Kale walked toward the human seat, whispers rippled through the room. Some aliens pointed at the marks on his armor, a few others even chuckled softly. Kale did not react. He had long learned that alien judgment could be swift and harsh, often driven by appearances alone. Inside, however, he was keenly aware of the story behind each dent. One came from a meteor strike he had survived during a supply mission. Another was the result of shielding a small shuttle from a rogue asteroid during a test of emergency navigation. To him, the armor told a story of endurance and cleverness. To the aliens, it seemed like damage and weakness. Seated now among his human team, Kale noticed their own unease. Most were younger representatives, talented in strategy or engineering, but unused to the heavy scrutiny of the Council. They fidgeted slightly, glancing nervously at the assembled aliens, many of whom had forms and technologies that were alien even by human imagination. The Xyler, the tall, blue-skinned alien species with bioluminescent markings, sat at the far end of the hall. Their ambassador, Vorin, leaned slightly forward, his glowing eyes sweeping over the humans as if studying a small, harmless creature. The council began with formalities. Voices resonated in the hall, each species presenting its name, achievements, and philosophy. When it came to Kale's turn, he stepped forward, every movement calm and measured. "Humans are new to the council," he began, voice steady. "But we bring more than technology or weaponry. We bring creativity, resilience, and a commitment to understanding. We do not underestimate challenges, and we do not fear failure, for we learn from it." There was polite applause from some delegates, while others merely exchanged glances. Vorin's smirk deepened ever so slightly, a silent signal of dismissal. "We shall see," the ambassador muttered, barely audible. After the introductions, the council announced a challenge. A simulation designed to test intelligence, creativity, and leadership across species. Each delegation would face a complex scenario, navigating unfamiliar environments, solving problems under time constraints, and demonstrating effective teamwork. Success would not come from raw technology alone, but from strategic thinking and adaptability. The aliens reacted immediately. Sleek ships, advanced robotics, and holographic interfaces filled their spaces. The humans, in contrast, were given equipment that looked outdated and worn. Kale's armor, though protective, appeared worse for wear under the council's lights. A few aliens leaned back, exchanging quiet chuckles. Kale's team looked down at their devices, their faces tight with apprehension. Kale, however, remained serene. "Listen," he said quietly, addressing his team, "this is not about who has the flashiest tools. The simulation is about thinking, adapting, and working together. The aliens may laugh now, but their technology can't replace human creativity. Remember that. Trust each other. Trust yourselves." The simulation chamber was a massive, enclosed space designed to mimic a series of unpredictable environments. Walls shifted, light patterns changed, and the floor was scattered with challenges ranging from complex puzzles to navigational obstacles. As the session began, the humans stepped in, their armor clanking slightly against the floor. Immediately, the aliens noticed their hesitancy. "Look at them," Vorin whispered to a nearby council member, "fragile, unprepared, relying on worn-out relics." The alien's gaze lingered on Kale's armor, scorched and battered. "They are doomed to fail." Kale heard nothing, though. His mind was already mapping strategies, considering contingencies, and observing how his team naturally approached problems. The first obstacle was a series of floating platforms suspended above a deep pit filled with simulated hazards. The aliens moved with precision, their movements flawless, following a rigid algorithm of calculation. They crossed quickly, but one miscalculation could have been disastrous if the hazard had been real. Kale's team approached differently. They paused not out of fear but to assess each platform's movement. One of the human engineers, Lyra, noticed a small energy pattern that suggested a safer route. Kale nodded. Good, follow that, but don't rush. Observe and adapt. Slowly but deliberately, they crossed, using subtle gestures and teamwork to adjust each step. As they progressed, the humans encountered a puzzle requiring communication and creative thinking. A series of symbols needed alignment to open a gate. Alien delegates had attempted similar puzzles before, relying on computation and speed, but struggled when patterns shifted unpredictably. Kale instructed his team to combine their knowledge, intuition, and logic rather than attempting brute force solutions. Together, they unlocked the gate, drawing astonished stares from the observing aliens. During a pause in the simulation, Voron's gaze returned to Kale. How can such flawed armor hide such capability? The ambassador murmured. Others, noticing the human progress, grew quieter. The initial laughter faded, replaced by intrigue and careful attention. Kale glanced at his team. This is only the beginning. The chamber adapts to our choices. We must continue to work together, observe carefully, and trust our instincts. Our strength is not in the shine of our armor, but in the clarity of our minds. The next phase of the simulation brought a challenge in diplomacy. Two sections of the chamber housed differing AI factions, each with unique needs and priorities. Kale's team had to negotiate their passage without provoking conflict. The alien delegations attempted similar negotiations using pre-programmed communication protocols. Kale encouraged his team to listen, adapt their language, and find compromise solutions rather than imposing force. Slowly, carefully, they brokered agreements with both factions, gaining safe passage and earning silent approval from the observing council. Finally, the simulation presented a scenario that tested endurance and quick adaptation. The floor shifted dynamically, walls moved, and multiple challenges appeared simultaneously. Humans and aliens alike had to make split-second decisions. Kale's team moved in harmony, signaling each other through subtle gestures, reading environmental cues, and adjusting tactics as the simulation evolved. The aliens relied heavily on computation and structure, and when the environment shifted unexpectedly, some were caught off guard. By the end of the first part of the simulation, Kale's team had navigated more efficiently than many of the alien delegations. Whispers began to circulate, a mix of surprise and disbelief. Voron, who had smiled at the humans' apparent inadequacy, now leaned forward, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Kale finally stepped aside, allowing his team to regroup. His armor, though battered and scorched, had protected him through every obstacle. He ran a hand along a dent near his shoulder, remembering the meteor strike that caused it. Each mark was not a flaw, but a testament to human perseverance, adaptability, and ingenuity. The council observers were silent. Even those who had mocked or laughed now looked on with a quiet respect. The aliens could not deny what they had seen. These humans, seemingly fragile and outdated, had displayed patience, intelligence, and resilience that their technology alone could not replicate. Kale gathered his team. "We've shown them what humans can do," he said softly. "Not with power, not with perfection, but with our minds, our hearts, and our ability to adapt. The next phases will be even more challenging, but I trust you. We have proven that appearances are not everything." As the team exited the chamber, the whispers of astonishment followed them. The humans had survived the first trial, not because of armor or technology, but because of cleverness, cooperation, and courage. Kale's team was exhausted but exhilarated. For the first time in the council hall, aliens looked at humans as equals, not curiosities to mock. Kale paused at the exit, glancing back at the chamber. The dents on his armor reflected the council lights, glimmering faintly like scars of honor. He felt a quiet pride. "This is only the beginning," he murmured. "We are human, we endure, we adapt, and we will not be underestimated." Outside the chamber, the alien delegates whispered among themselves. Voron's gaze lingered on Kale for a moment longer than necessary. The ambassador's smirk was gone, replaced with a thoughtful, calculating expression. Somewhere deep in his mind, the Xyler realized that humans were far more dangerous, not because they were aggressive, but because they were unpredictable, clever, and resilient. Kale adjusted his worn helmet and led his team toward the council chamber. The next challenge awaited, and with it, the chance to prove that human ingenuity could stand among the stars, unbowed and unbroken. The council chamber was quiet now, the echoes of the first simulation still lingering in the minds of the delegates. Humans had surprised everyone, including themselves, by navigating the complex scenarios with patience, creativity, and teamwork. Kale knew this was only the beginning. The next challenge would not just test their intellect or adaptability. It would test their ability to think under pressure, communicate clearly, and find solutions that no alien technology could predict. Kale's team moved toward the next simulation area, a large room filled with shifting walls, holographic projections, and unfamiliar devices. This stage was designed as a collaborative problem-solving trial. The council wanted to see which species could negotiate, innovate, and use reasoning to overcome unexpected obstacles. Unlike the first simulation, where navigation was key, this one demanded creativity and collaboration. As they entered, the human delegates glanced at the alien teams already there. The aliens seemed relaxed, confident in their abilities, and unconcerned about the humans' arrival. Many had advanced tools, glowing devices, and automated assistants. Kale's team, by contrast, relied on simple instruments, worn notebooks, and their wits. A few of the younger humans whispered nervously. "How are we supposed to compete with this?" Kale crouched to speak to them quietly. "We don't compete with their tools. We compete with our minds, our teamwork, and our creativity. They may have more advanced equipment, but we have something they cannot calculate: intuition and adaptability. Remember, a rigid plan breaks when the unexpected happens. We thrive in the unexpected." The simulation began. A holographic map appeared in the center of the room, showing a network of floating platforms, energy fields, and puzzle nodes. The challenge was clear: reach a distant control hub and unlock a central gate. The hub could only be activated by solving a sequence of puzzles scattered across the platforms. Teams had to work together to complete them while navigating constantly changing obstacles. The aliens moved quickly, their movements precise, almost machine-like. They relied on calculation and technology, following predetermined algorithms for each puzzle. To the casual observer, they were flawless. But Kale noticed their rigidity. If one node changed unexpectedly, their sequences faltered. Humans, on the other hand, approached each node with observation and discussion. Kale led the first approach. Lyra, check the symbols. Milo, monitor the platforms. Dara, guide the timing. I'll coordinate. The team immediately began working together, sharing information and adjusting their actions based on what they observed. When a puzzle pattern changed suddenly, the humans paused, discussed the change, and adapted their method. The aliens, by contrast, hesitated longer, struggling to recompute their algorithms. The first puzzle involved aligning glowing symbols in a sequence that matched environmental cues. The aliens tried to use logic alone, analyzing the symbols' shapes mathematically. The humans observed patterns in light, movement, and timing. By noticing subtle shifts in the projections, Kale's team solved the puzzle faster than the calculated, rigid methods of the aliens. A murmur spread among the observers. For the first time, humans were not just keeping up, they were excelling. Next came a coordination challenge. Platforms moved on multiple axes, requiring precise timing. Each delegate had to step on the correct sequence without triggering traps. Alien teams used pre-programmed movement patterns, but when the platforms changed unexpectedly, many were caught off guard. Kale's team, however, communicated silently, watching each other's cues and adjusting steps in real time. Lyra signaled Milo. Milo shifted slightly, Dara held a platform steady, and Kale moved at the perfect moment to guide them. Together, they crossed flawlessly. The Xyler ambassador, Vorin, watched from a balcony above, frowning slightly. His confidence was unshaken, but curiosity had replaced his initial amusement. "These humans are unusual," he muttered. "They improvise rather than rely on logic. They see patterns we do not." His aides nodded, whispering about how the humans seemed to anticipate shifts before they occurred. The final section of the simulation presented the toughest challenge yet, a sequence of interdependent puzzles where each solution affected the next. One mistake could set off a cascade of errors. Alien teams began with confidence, but soon faltered as the interconnected problems became unpredictable. Kale's team, by contrast, approached the task systematically, combining reasoning, observation, and adaptability. They paused frequently, discussing each step, sharing insights, and considering alternative approaches. When a puzzle node shifted in a way the humans had not expected, Kale smiled. Exactly as I thought, it's not random. Observe the pattern of change. It repeats in cycles. His team adjusted, completing the node efficiently. The aliens struggled to recalibrate their calculations, showing frustration in gestures and expressions that humans barely noticed but interpreted clearly. A subtle moment of teamwork elevated the humans further. A puzzle required balancing multiple energy streams simultaneously. Milo noticed that adjusting one stream affected the other too. Kale nodded, signaling Lyra to shift her focus while Dara maintained stability. Together, they achieved balance in moments, while alien teams scrambled to respond. Observers began murmuring, whispering among themselves, and some delegates even leaned forward to study the humans' methods. By now, the council chamber was silent, all eyes fixed on the human team. The laughter from the first day had vanished completely. Instead, there was curiosity, surprise, and a growing respect. Even Voron's smirk had disappeared, replaced with a thoughtful gaze as he studied Kale's coordination. When the humans finally reached the control hub, Kale took a moment. He looked at his team, each exhausted but focused. "We finish this together. Trust your instincts and trust each other." They nodded, synchronized in thought and movement. With careful coordination, they activated the control hub, unlocking the central gate. The chamber erupted in applause, not loud, but a mixture of admiration and disbelief. Delegates whispered to each other, debating how humans could achieve such precision without relying on advanced technology. Kale's armor, still dented and scorched, reflected the lights of the chamber as if each mark were a badge of honor. It was no longer a source of ridicule, it was proof of endurance, experience, and adaptability. After the simulation, Kale gathered his team outside the chamber. "You did well," he said, voice calm but proud. "The aliens are watching. They're learning that humans are different, not because we are perfect, but because we are unpredictable, creative, and resilient. Every challenge we face, we adapt. Every obstacle we overcome, that is our strength." Lyra, still catching her breath, smiled. "I never thought we could keep up with them, but somehow we did." Milo laughed quietly. "We didn't just keep up, we led." Kale nodded. "Exactly, remember this. Our appearance, our tools, even our armor, they may seem weak or outdated. But our minds, our teamwork, and our adaptability make us stronger than any machine." The next morning, news of the human team's performance spread throughout the council halls. Delegates who had once laughed now studied them carefully. Some approached with questions, hoping to understand the methods humans used to solve problems so efficiently. Others whispered about how unpredictable humans could be, recognizing that such unpredictability made them a force not easily measured or controlled. Voron, observing from the balcony, finally approached Kale. He stopped a few feet away, folding his luminescent arms. "Commander Kale," he said, voice low but respectful, "your team has done something remarkable. I underestimated humans." "Clearly, I was wrong." Kale inclined his head politely. "The galaxy is full of surprises, Ambassador. Humans are only one of them." Voron's gaze lingered on Kale's damaged armor. "Your armor so scarred, yet you lead so well. There is meaning in it, I think." Kale smiled faintly. "Each mark tells a story: survival, endurance, adaptation, all the lessons that have brought us here." As Kale walked back to his team, he felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. The first phase of the Council's challenges was behind them, but he knew the next stages would be harder. Technology, intelligence, and diplomacy would be tested at higher levels. Yet Kale also knew one truth that no alien technology could replicate. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of brilliance when they trusted themselves and each other. The day ended with a simple ceremony acknowledging the progress of all delegations. Humans received modest recognition, but the real acknowledgement came in the form of glances of respect from alien delegates. The laughter from the first day had vanished completely. Humans were no longer a curiosity. They were a species that demanded attention. That night, Kale sat in the quiet of the human quarters, looking at his worn armor laid carefully on a table. He ran his fingers along the dents and scratches, remembering the moments they represented. "It's not the shine that matters," he said quietly. "It's the experience, the endurance, the lessons learned, and that is something no technology can ever replace." Outside, the stars of a distant galaxy glittered like scattered jewels. Kale understood that humans had only begun to prove themselves. Many challenges lay ahead, but he also knew this. As long as they faced obstacles together, humans could outthink, outlast, and outshine even the most advanced civilizations. And somewhere above, Vorin watched, silently acknowledging that humans were far more than their appearance. They were clever, resilient, and unstoppable in ways no machine could measure. Kale stood, adjusting his armor with care. The next phase awaited, and he would face it as always, with courage, intelligence, and the unshakable belief that humans, no matter how underestimated, could achieve the extraordinary. The next morning, the human team gathered early in the council quarters. The previous simulation had been a success, yet Kale knew that admiration could quickly turn into scrutiny. Alien delegates were clever and prideful. Their underestimation of humans was a fragile thing, easily restored if humans faltered. The challenge today would not only test intellect and teamwork, but also leadership under direct observation. The new simulation awaited in a vast chamber that resembled a miniature city. Buildings of strange shapes and materials rose at irregular angles, streets twisted in ways that defied typical geometry, and light shifted unpredictably, simulating both day and night in irregular cycles. Holographic interfaces dotted the environment, each projecting puzzles or information nodes that teams needed to interpret and solve. The challenge was simple in instruction but complex in execution. Reach the central control tower, activate it, and synchronize all sectors of the city to complete the trial. Every misstep could result in delays, and only the team that demonstrated the greatest combination of strategy, creativity, and adaptability would succeed. The humans entered cautiously, their worn armor clinking softly with each step. The alien teams were already at work, some rushing ahead, relying on sheer speed and precision. Kale observed their methods carefully. Each alien delegation approached as if following a predictable formula, a set of instructions that technology could calculate and replicate. Humans, however, did not follow formulas. They read the environment, noticed subtle patterns, and adjusted their strategies in real time. Kale turned to his team. "Remember what we did before. Observe first, act second. The unexpected will come, it always does. Use it, don't fear it, and work together. Every decision matters, but none are more important than teamwork." The first obstacle emerged almost immediately. A bridge spanning a wide gap, lined with panels that changed color and shape at irregular intervals. The aliens hesitated only briefly, then rushed across using pre-programmed sequences, moving mechanically but quickly. Kale's team paused to assess. Lyra noticed that the panel's color patterns repeated on a three-step cycle. Milo measured the timing with a small device, while Dara suggested adjusting their pace to match the subtle rhythm of the lights. Kale nodded. "Good. Step carefully, follow the rhythm, move as one." Together the humans crossed, every step coordinated, every pause deliberate. They reached the other side without error. Several alien delegates stumbled when the environment shifted unexpectedly, a reminder that adaptability could triumph over speed. The next challenge was a series of interconnected puzzles. Each solved puzzle affected the next one, and some had multiple possible solutions. Alien teams relied on calculation alone, quickly making choices based on data, but unable to predict the cascading effects of their decisions. Kale's team approached differently. They paused, discussed options, and chose solutions that balanced multiple outcomes. When one puzzle node changed unexpectedly, they adapted immediately, their previous observations guiding their choices. Midway through the city, the humans encountered a particularly complex problem. A network of energy nodes that needed to be aligned simultaneously, each node affecting the others. Alien teams tried to force the nodes into place using brute calculation, but when the nodes shifted unpredictably, they had to start over. Kale's team stopped and studied the environment. He noticed a repeating pattern in the energy flows, a subtle rhythm no calculation alone could detect. "Watch the energy," he instructed. "It has a cycle. If we time our adjustments, we can synchronize all nodes at once." Lyra and Milo followed his lead, moving with careful timing. Dara adjusted the nodes subtly, anticipating the flow's changes. Step by step, the network aligned perfectly. The human team had completed a task that had flustered multiple alien delegations. A murmur of surprise swept through the observation areas. Some aliens tilted their heads, clearly impressed, while others whispered in disbelief. As the humans progressed toward the central tower, Kale noticed another challenge approaching. An alien delegation attempting to block access to a narrow passage. They were not aggressive in a harmful sense. They simply wanted to test the humans' problem-solving skills. The humans could have waited or tried to push past, but Kale shook his head. Observe first. There is always a solution that does not involve confrontation. He studied the path. A series of scaffolds and elevated platforms allowed the humans to bypass the aliens without conflict. Milo led the way, Lyra and Dara following closely, and Kale monitored from behind, guiding subtly. The alien delegation was caught off guard, unable to predict the humans' unconventional approach. They paused, watching the humans move gracefully and efficiently around obstacles they had considered critical. When the humans reached the control tower, the final puzzle awaited. The tower's activation required simultaneous input across multiple interfaces, scattered across several floors. Alien teams rushed ahead, trying to dominate each interface individually. Kale gathered his team. Coordination is key. We work together, not separately. Observe, assign roles, and act as one unit. Ready? They nodded, taking positions. Lyra monitored energy flows, Milo adjusted control panels, Dara coordinated timing, and Kale supervised, ensuring all actions were synchronized. The interfaces began to respond. Each adjustment required precision, attention, and teamwork. The aliens, rushing individually, struggled to maintain coordination. Their technology was sophisticated, but without human adaptability and communication, they could not match the synchronized effort of Kale's team. At the critical moment, Kale removed his gauntlets, exposing his hands, steady and calm. "Now," he said, signaling the final sequence. Each human moved in perfect unison, guided by observation, intuition, and trust. The tower's systems aligned, lights pulsed in sequence, and the central gate activated. A wave of energy swept across the city simulation, signaling completion. The chamber erupted in applause, louder and more genuine than before. Observers stood, clearly impressed. Alien delegates who had once whispered with scorn now nodded respectfully. Vorin, standing above, studied Kale closely. His glowing eyes revealed both astonishment and contemplation. For the first time, he seemed to see beyond the surface, the armor, the scratches, the dents, and recognize the human qualities beneath: intelligence, patience, and unshakable teamwork. Kale turned to his team. "Well done," he said softly. "We've proven something important today. That tools, technology, and speed alone do not define success. Adaptability, communication, and trust make the difference. Remember that." Lyra smiled, exhaustion mingling with pride. "We didn't just survive the challenge, Commander. We outperformed them." Milo laughed quietly. "Outperformed and outsmarted, and we didn't need to be flashy to do it." Kale nodded. "Exactly. That is the lesson they are learning and the lesson we already know. Humans endure, humans adapt, and humans excel where others rely too heavily on certainty." After the simulation, delegates approached the humans with curiosity and questions. Some wanted to understand the methods humans used to coordinate without advanced technology. Others wanted to observe their decision-making in detail, trying to grasp the unpredictability that had led to success. Even Vorin spoke with other council members privately, discussing the humans' approach in ways that suggested respect, if not full admiration. That evening, Kale gathered his team in the quiet of the human quarters. "Observe and learn," he said, gesturing to the armor he had carefully set aside. "Every mark on this armor is a lesson, every dent a challenge survived, every scratch a decision made under pressure. The aliens see the surface, but we know the meaning beneath. That is why we succeed." Dara looked at Kale thoughtfully. "They keep underestimating us," she said. "Do you think they will ever stop?" Kale shook his head. "Perhaps not, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that we know our strengths. We do not need their recognition to succeed. Their doubt only reminds us to stay vigilant, creative, and united." Milo grinned. "It almost feels fun, outsmarting them without even trying to fight." Kale chuckled softly. "It is fun and necessary. The galaxy respects results, not appearances, and we have results. Remember that as we face the next stages." The night passed quietly, the humans resting and preparing for the challenges ahead. Outside the human quarters, the council continued its deliberations. Alien delegates discussed, debated, and speculated about what humans might do next. Some were genuinely curious, others cautious. What was clear was that humans were no longer dismissed as fragile newcomers. They had demonstrated creativity, resilience, and the kind of problem-solving that technology alone could not replicate. Kale, lying awake and reflecting on the day, felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. The humans had reached a turning point. They had not just survived the Council's tests. They had begun to silence the doubters, to show that underestimation of humanity was a mistake. Their armor might be damaged, their tools might be simple, but their minds, their teamwork, and their courage made them formidable. As the stars outside the Council windows glittered faintly, Kale understood that the true test was just beginning. The challenges ahead would be more complex, more unpredictable, and more demanding. Yet he also knew one truth that no alien calculation could measure. Humans thrived under pressure, adapted to the unknown, and solved problems that seemed impossible. The following day, the human team would face another trial, a test designed to push them beyond observation, beyond puzzles, into true leadership and decision-making under dynamic conditions. Kale prepared himself and his team, knowing that every action, every choice would continue to define humanity's place in the galaxy. And somewhere in the council chamber, Voran's eyes followed him. The Xylar ambassador, who had once laughed at the human's appearance, now watched with careful attention. He had learned something critical. Underestimating humans was no longer an option. They were clever, resilient, and unpredictable in ways that no technology could anticipate. Kale adjusted his armor once more, touching the scars and dents with quiet respect. Each mark reminded him of the lessons of endurance and adaptability. The humans had begun to earn the galaxy's attention, not through weapons or force, but through intelligence, teamwork, and the quiet power of being human. As the chamber lights dimmed and the simulation systems reset for the next challenge, Kale felt a quiet determination. They had proven themselves, but the story was far from over. The next phase awaited, and the humans would face it as always. United, clever, and unbroken, the next challenge was announced with a sense of ceremony. The council chamber, now filled with delegates who had witnessed the human team's steady rise, was silent. Even the whispers of skepticism that had followed Kale and his team at the beginning were gone, replaced by curiosity and cautious respect. The simulation they were about to face was designed not only to test intelligence and adaptability, but also leadership, perception, and influence. It was a trial where decisions could impact multiple alien factions at once, and where a single misjudgment could result in failure. Kale and his team entered the chamber, their worn armor gleaming faintly under the council lights. This time, the environment was unlike any they had seen. It resembled a massive arena with multiple platforms floating above a reflective surface. Each platform displayed a series of complex interfaces, energy conduits, and interactive elements. Holographic projections of alien landscapes and structures filled the air, shifting dynamically in response to movement and input. The challenge was simple in description, but difficult in execution. Unify the disparate energy streams on the platforms to power a central core. Alien delegations approached with confidence, some immediately activating their advanced devices and algorithms. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical, each step calculated to maximize efficiency. Kale, however, did not rush. He paused, observing. He noticed subtle differences in the energy patterns, changes that the aliens seemed to overlook. Their technology was precise but rigid. They relied on programmed sequences which made them vulnerable to unpredictable variations. Kale addressed his team quietly. Watch the flow of energy, don't rush, adapt as it changes. Work together, every action matters, but no action matters more than the next. Keep calm and focus on patterns, not speed. Lyra studied one of the floating platforms, noticing that the energy conduits pulsed with a rhythm. It repeats every few seconds, she said. If we adjust in time with the pulse, we can redirect the streams without interference. Milo nodded, quickly noting the timing on a small handheld device. Dara began coordinating the movement of their interfaces. Kale guided them, adjusting positions and actions as the energy streams shifted unpredictably. The alien delegations initially moved faster, activating multiple nodes at once with glowing tools and holographic interfaces. But when the energy streams changed unexpectedly, a factor the aliens had not anticipated, their sequences failed. They paused, recalculating, trying to regain the rhythm. Kale's team, by contrast, had anticipated variation. They adapted instantly, correcting minor misalignments and maintaining steady progress. The central core required a synchronized input across multiple platforms. Each team had to coordinate precisely, or the energy alignment would collapse. The aliens, working individually and relying on pre-programmed methods, struggled to achieve the required coordination. Kale's team, however, functioned as a single unit. Each member knew the timing and role of the others instinctively. Lyra adjusted conduits as Milo balanced energy flows. Dara shifted control panels to correct misalignments, and Kale monitored the overall progress, making split-second decisions to maintain harmony. At one point, a sudden change in the environment caused a series of energy nodes to shift violently. Alien teams hesitated, unsure how to respond. Kale's team reacted immediately. "Follow the pulse," he shouted. "Adjust with me now." Their movements were fluid, synchronized with the changing patterns. Energy streams bent to their will, flowing toward the core with remarkable precision. Observers in the chamber gasped quietly. The human team had turned what seemed like chaos into control. Vorin, standing on the balcony, observed closely. His glowing eyes narrowed in contemplation. The human's armor, battered and scarred, gleamed faintly under the shifting light. Every mark told a story of experience and endurance. He realized that it was not the armor alone that had kept them effective, but the resilience and ingenuity it represented. The humans were capable of adapting in ways that no technology alone could match. The final stage of the challenge involved a decision. The central core required simultaneous activation from two terminals, each located on opposite sides of the arena. Some alien teams rushed toward one terminal, hoping to dominate quickly. Kale knew that this approach would fail. "We need coordination, not speed," he told his team. "We move together, we act together, or we fail together." The humans split strategically. Kale took one terminal while Dara and Lyra worked together on the other. Milo managed the energy conduits between them, balancing flows and ensuring synchronization. When the moment came to activate the terminals, Kale made a bold decision. He removed his gauntlets and slowly began disengaging his armor pieces, exposing his arms and the scarred metal beneath. The motion drew the attention of the entire council. Alien delegates paused, and Vorin's expression shifted from curiosity to astonishment. Kale spoke calmly, his voice carrying across the chamber. "These marks are not flaws, they are lessons learned, challenges overcome, and adaptations made under pressure. Each dent, each scratch represents a decision that mattered, an obstacle that was overcome, and the resilience of humanity." The room fell silent. The alien delegates who had once mocked his appearance now stared at him in awe. Kale's actions and words transformed the perception of his damaged armor. It was no longer a symbol of weakness, but a testament to human endurance and capability. With deliberate care, Kale positioned himself at the terminal. Dara and Lyra mirrored his movements on the opposite side. Milo adjusted the energy conduits one final time. Together, they activated the terminals simultaneously. Energy flowed across the arena, converging at the central core. Lights pulsed in sequence, and the system harmonized perfectly. A wave of synchronized energy swept through the simulation, signaling complete success. The council erupted in applause, louder and more heartfelt than before. Alien delegates who had once whispered in scorn now openly nodded in respect. Vorin stepped forward, his glowing arms folded, his eyes fixed on Kale. "You have done something remarkable," he said. "I underestimated humanity, and I was wrong. You lead not through power, but through understanding, intuition, and adaptability. This is a lesson our species must remember." Kale nodded, acknowledging the compliment without arrogance. "Thank you, Ambassador." Humanity's strength is not in perfection or power alone, but in learning, adapting, and working together. We do not seek to dominate. We seek to endure, solve problems, and contribute meaningfully. That is our way. The council deliberated for a long time after the challenge, discussing the results and the implications. Alien delegations began to recognize a new truth. Humans were a species that could not be measured solely by technology or appearance. They were clever, resilient, and capable of coordination and adaptability that could surpass even the most advanced systems. Kale and his team returned to their quarters quietly. The weight of the day rested on them, but so did a sense of accomplishment. Lyra cleaned her small device, Milo adjusted his interface tablet, and Dara reviewed the notes they had taken during the challenge. Kale examined his armor, running his hands over the dents and scratches. "Every mark tells a story," he said softly. "Every dent is a lesson. We have proven that endurance and ingenuity matter more than appearances." Milo grinned. "And we proved it in front of the whole council." Kale smiled faintly. "Yes, but the real lesson is for ourselves. The aliens' recognition is secondary. What matters is that we know our strength and how to use it. That knowledge cannot be taken from us." That night, Kale stood at the observation window of the human quarters, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of civilizations that measured power differently. Some valued technology, others speed, others size. Humans, he realized, had a different kind of power: adaptability, intuition, creativity, and teamwork. These qualities could not be quantified by machines or calculations. They were uniquely human. Voran's presence lingered in his mind. The ambassador's respect was evident, yet Kale knew that other delegations would watch carefully, trying to understand how humans had achieved such success. The next challenges would be tougher, more complex, and require even greater leadership, but Kale felt confident. He had seen what his team was capable of under pressure, and he knew that human ingenuity, combined with unity and resilience, could face whatever the council put before them. As the night deepened, the humans rested, preparing for the next trial. Kale's armor lay carefully beside his bed, each mark reflecting the light faintly, a silent reminder of battles survived and lessons learned. When the next simulation began, the humans would be ready, armed not only with tools and knowledge, but with the confidence that comes from experience, adaptability, and unity. The council would witness the culmination of what had already begun, the quiet but undeniable assertion that humans were not to be underestimated. The damaged armor, once a source of mockery, had become a symbol of endurance and intelligence. Kale understood this more clearly than anyone. Appearances were fleeting, but the strength of character, ingenuity, and teamwork endured. And somewhere high above, Voran observed in thoughtful silence, finally realizing that the humans' greatest weapon was not strength, technology, or speed. It was their mind, their resilience, and their refusal to be measured by others' expectations. Kale adjusted his armor one final time before sleep, feeling the weight and history it carried. The next challenge awaited, but he was ready. Humans had proven that intelligence, collaboration, and courage could overcome prejudice, ridicule, and even the most complex problems. The galaxy was beginning to take notice, and Kale knew that the final stage of the Council's trials would be the ultimate test of what it truly meant to be human. The sun, or its artificial equivalent in the Council chambers, rose over the vast arena where the final challenge awaited. Unlike the previous trials, this stage combined everything the human team had faced so far: problem-solving, coordination, observation, and adaptability. But now it added one more layer: the element of diplomacy. Multiple alien factions were involved simultaneously, each with differing priorities, and the humans had to navigate not only environmental challenges, but also interpersonal dynamics. Kale's team entered the arena, their armor dented and worn but polished in quiet care. Each mark told a story: a narrow escape, a quick adaptation, a lesson learned. The humans had faced ridicule at first, then surprise, and then cautious respect. Now every eye in the chamber would watch them closely. Some aliens whispered, speculating whether humans could rise again. Others remained skeptical, believing that the humans' previous success might have been luck. Kale did not notice these doubts. His focus was on the challenge itself, on his team, and on the principles that had carried them this far. The arena resembled a sprawling network of elevated platforms, suspended over a reflective surface. Holographic projections displayed alien cities, landscapes, and energy streams. Nodes of information floated in the air, each requiring analysis and coordination to unlock the path forward. Teams had to manage their resources, communicate, and synchronize actions across multiple points. One error could slow progress significantly, and with multiple delegations present, efficiency alone would not guarantee success. Kale gathered his team. "This is not about speed," he said calmly. "It is about observation, adaptation, and unity. Watch the patterns, listen to each other, Anticipate changes and remember, our strength lies in our collaboration and ingenuity, not in appearances or tools alone. Stay focused and trust your instincts. The simulation began. Alien teams immediately rushed to the nearest nodes, activating devices and interfaces with precision. Humans moved more deliberately, observing the environment, noting subtle shifts, and adjusting their approach. The first challenge involved balancing energy flows across multiple platforms. Alien teams relied on calculation, manipulating nodes based on pre-programmed sequences. Kale's team, however, noted patterns that no algorithm could predict. Small fluctuations repeated in cycles, and by timing their movements and adjustments, they maintained perfect balance. A small cheer escaped from one of the observers as the human team completed the first sequence faster than many alien delegations. Kale's team acknowledged it silently, knowing that the real test was far from over. The next phase required activating a series of holographic control nodes spread throughout the arena. Each node required collaboration between at least 2 delegates, and the paths connecting them shifted unpredictably. Alien teams, working individually or in rigid pairs, struggled to coordinate as the environment shifted. Kale signaled to his team, "Split and observe." 2 at each node. Adjust as the paths shift. Communicate constantly. One misstep can affect the rest, so move carefully and deliberately. Lyra and Dara moved to the first node, Milo and Kale to the second. Communication was quiet, subtle gestures, short phrases, and eye contact guiding their every action. When a platform shifted unexpectedly, Kale instinctively adjusted his stance, signaling Milo to compensate. Energy flows realigned, and the node activated perfectly. The aliens nearby paused, their precision tools rendered less effective by the humans' adaptability and coordination. The most critical stage came when a holographic barrier appeared, splitting the arena into 2 sectors. Each team needed to simultaneously align their nodes to unlock a central bridge. Alien teams rushed to dominate their sectors independently, but the synchronization required was beyond simple calculation. Kale's team moved methodically, observing both sectors simultaneously. He removed his gauntlets once more, revealing his scarred arms. His armor, battered and dented, glinted faintly under the chamber lights. "This," Kale said softly, addressing his team but loud enough for observers to hear, "is not about technology or appearances. This is about observation, coordination, and trust. Every mark on this armor is a lesson learned. Every scratch is an obstacle overcome. We succeed together or we fail together." The room fell silent. Alien delegates who had once whispered or laughed now stared at him, captivated. Even Vorin, the Xyler ambassador, stepped closer to the balcony's edge, glowing eyes fixed on Kale. The silence in the chamber was profound, broken only by the soft hum of the holographic systems. Kale and his team began the final synchronization. Lyra and Dara adjusted the energy nodes in their sector, Milo and Kale in theirs. Every movement was deliberate, every decision calculated through observation and teamwork rather than rigid pre-programming. The nodes pulsed in sequence, flowing toward the central bridge. Slowly, the holographic barrier lifted. A collective gasp came from the observers. The humans had achieved what many alien teams had struggled to accomplish. Their synchronization was perfect, efficient, and elegant. The bridge fully extended, connecting the 2 sectors, and the central core began to hum with energy. Lights pulsed in perfect rhythm, and the central system activated flawlessly. The humans had completed the simulation entirely. The chamber erupted in applause, louder and more enthusiastic than any previous challenge. Alien delegates stood, many clapping, some leaning forward with genuine interest and admiration. Vorin descended from the balcony, his arms folded, moving toward Kale. His glow pulsed subtly, a sign of deep thought in Xyler communication. "You have done the impossible," Vorin said quietly, voice measured but full of respect. "I underestimated humanity. Your approach, your observation, adaptability, and unity is unparalleled. It is a lesson that we must all remember." Kale inclined his head politely. "Thank you, Ambassador. Humans are not perfect, but we endure, adapt, and work together. That is our strength. It is not in appearances or tools alone. It is in ingenuity, courage, and collaboration." The council deliberated after the simulation, acknowledging the humans' success. Their methods had been unconventional but effective. Alien delegations discussed what they had witnessed, recognizing that humans possessed qualities that were difficult to quantify but essential for true leadership and problem-solving. The humans' damaged armor, once a target of ridicule, now symbolized experience, resilience, and the lessons learned through adaptation. Kale and his team returned to the human quarters quietly, exhausted but fulfilled. Lyra cleaned her small devices carefully, Milo adjusted his interface tablet, and Dara reviewed the notes they had taken during the challenge. Kale examined his armor, running his hands over the dents and scratches. "Every mark tells a story," he said softly. "Every dent is a lesson learned. We have shown that appearances do not define strength. Intelligence, teamwork, and perseverance do." That evening, the human team met in the council's observation lounge. Delegates from various species approached, asking questions about human coordination, decision-making, and problem-solving methods. They were eager to learn, not to ridicule. Some requested demonstrations of human techniques, while others simply observed quietly, absorbing the lessons without interference. Kale addressed his team privately. "This is what it means to earn respect. We did not do it by showing strength or technology alone. We did it by demonstrating adaptability, ingenuity, and teamwork. These are qualities that no alien technology can replicate." Lyra smiled, exhaustion mingling with pride. "It feels incredible to be recognized, Commander." "From ridicule to admiration, who would have thought?" Milo laughed quietly. "And all without flashing weapons or advanced tech." Kale nodded. "Exactly. The galaxy respects results, not appearances. What we've achieved is permanent, not because of the armor or our tools, but because of what humans can do together." The next morning, the council held a formal ceremony recognizing the human delegation. Vorin approached Kale and his team, presenting a symbolic token of acknowledgement from the council. "Humanity has demonstrated something remarkable," he said. "Not power, not speed, not technology, but intelligence, creativity, and resilience. You have proven that the galaxy should not underestimate humans." Kale accepted the token with humility. "We thank the council for this acknowledgement. But more importantly, we have learned that our strength lies in working together, learning from each challenge and trusting ourselves. That is what makes us human." As the ceremony concluded, Kale looked at his team. Each member was exhausted but smiling, their pride quiet but evident. The humans had faced ridicule, doubt, and skepticism, yet they had proven their worth through intelligence, teamwork, and ingenuity. Their damaged armor, once a symbol of weakness, had become a testament to resilience, experience, and adaptability. The aliens who had laughed at the humans' appearance now approached with curiosity, respect, and even admiration. Vorin lingered nearby, watching thoughtfully, a subtle glow signaling deep contemplation. The ambassador had learned a lesson that many in the galaxy would now remember. Human ingenuity and perseverance could not be underestimated. Kale adjusted his armor, touching each dent and scratch with quiet respect. Each mark was a story of endurance, each lesson learned a step toward proving humanity's place in the galaxy. The humans had not only completed the Council's trials, they had transformed perceptions, earning recognition not through force, but through intelligence, teamwork, and courage. As they departed the Council chambers, Kale looked out at the stars beyond. Humanity had begun to earn its place among the galaxy's great civilizations. Their methods were unconventional, their tools often simple, but their minds, adaptability, and unity had proven unstoppable. Kale smiled faintly, knowing that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would remember this day, the day when humans, underestimated and ridiculed for their appearance and worn armor, rose to demonstrate that true strength lies not in perfection, but in perseverance, ingenuity, and teamwork. Kale's team walked together, their steps steady, confident, and unshakable. The stars above reflected their journey, the journey of humanity from curiosity to recognition, from ridicule to respect. And somewhere high in the observation balconies, Vorin watched, silently acknowledging that humans were a species to be admired, respected, and never underestimated. Humanity had proven itself, and in the vast, infinite galaxy, that proof would endure.